group came together when several smaller arts groups merged, and among those were Direct, Arts Express, Catholic School, and Friends of Arts in Turin. That's another representation from the Turin schools and the Turin Arts Council, and all of those groups have continued to be involved. We are trying to reach out to other groups in the community, and I'm glad to see people from the Economic Development Commission and Conservation Commission in the Open Space and the Land Trust and Portsmouth, Massachusetts, different places in Massachusetts.
There are people from Massachusetts?
There are at least two, yes. You know who you are. Charlie Butterman. So this is, we're excited that we're growing and there's momentum and we're doing more and more, and we're starting to make these connections that are going to be important in keeping the arts front and center for all of our communities. I just want to make a couple of service announcements before I turn this over to Rebecca. We have a few classes that are running this spring that are coming up, and if anyone is interested in jewelry making, Teresa Mowry is here and she'll be teaching that class in the studio. Here she is. We have a plein air painting group that's going to meet on Tuesday mornings in June, taught by Denise Samba. There will be a digital travel photography workshop this weekend, tomorrow from 9:30 to 12:30, here I believe, taught by Jen Armour from Portsmouth. And it's not too late to enroll that if you speak with Janet or the administrative assistant. And then Fun with Faux Painting, Wednesday, May 27th, 6 to 9 p.m. at the Anglican Church, taught by We also have a number of things coming up this summer, including Dan Butterworth and Samaritan Nets on June 27th at school. We have a few family arts activities, green arts at the Sakonnet Growers Market that the Land Trust has organized again this summer. And we have an arts literacy camp we're supporting scholarships for at the Casa School in August. So that's kind of what we're up to. And I'll also recognize our volunteers first. We have a very small but active board, and I would like to just introduce you to everyone on our board really quickly. Diane Santa, who's also the curriculum and development director at the school. Helen Nadler, who helped organize this event. Rebecca Elwell, Compton. Doris Wolowski, Houston Scott. Victoria Mediak, our latest addition to the board, who's a sculptor from Little Compton. She's got some really wonderful things happening in her studio in Warren. We also had some other volunteers who helped specifically with this event tonight, Donna Kent and Barbara Humphrey, who's on our advisory board, who contributed the lovely flower arrangements, and Carol Sippel. Thank you. Okay, without further ado, thanks.
I have the job of introducing our guest speaker, Randall Rosenbaum.
It's a job.
It's a job. Public speaking is always a job. Randall is the Executive Director of the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts, a position that he has held since January 1995. For 11 years before that, he served in a variety of capacities at the Pennsylvania Council of the Arts, including Deputy Director and Director of Dance and Presenting Organizations programs. He has a Bachelor of Music Education degree from Temple University in Philadelphia and has managed orchestras and nonprofit organizations in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and Ohio. Randy has served as a site visitor and panelist for the National Endowment of the Arts and as a panelist for the State Arts Agencies of New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Connecticut, Massachusetts.
Wow. And I'm only in my mid-20s.
I was thinking you must have started when you were 4.5. As well as the Mid-Atlantic Arts Foundation and the Heinz Endowment of Pittsburgh. He serves on the boards of the New England Foundation for the Arts and has served on the board of the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies. Back a few months ago when Sakonnet Arts started talking about hosting a forum on enriching our communities through the arts, the very first name or person that came to mind to do this presentation based on his experience and his expertise in this area was Randall. There was no second choice even close, so imagine our delight and appreciation when he was available and willing. So we are delighted to be able to welcome him to our community today and have him talk about some ways that we may bring a little more joy, a little bit more color to our environment.
Great.
Thanks.
Well, that wasn't what I was.
Thank you very much. Can all of you hear me okay? Great. If at any time you can't, just wave or something like that. First of all, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. I use whatever excuse I can to come down to Tiverton, Little Compton, buy wine, you know, that kind of stuff. But it's always a joy to come here, and it really, for someone who lives up in the northern part of the state, you come down into this area and your heart just flies to your throat with the beauty and the joy of what you people experience every day. So you're the lucky ones, and I am delighted to be here just to talk a little bit about the arts. I've put together a presentation, but those of you who have come to presentations of mine in the past, like Chris Donovan, know that I tend to be stream of consciousness. So I will probably say whatever pops into my head, and because it's stream of consciousness, it's always something of a crapshoot as to whether or not we get a real quality experience out of this, which is why we have the PowerPoint presentation to fall back on. But this really is what I hope will be not a presentation, but a conversation. And I'm going to try my best to get you to just join in at every step of the way so that we're talking back and forth about issues that are of interest to you. That way, if I tend to go off on a tangent, at least you'll be able to bring me back to something that at least one person in the room is interested in. That said, my role today was to talk about the local impact of the arts in the Tiverton, Little Compton area. And I decided to illustrate this first slide with one of my favorite places in the Tiverton, Little Compton area. At least it's my family's absolute favorite place when we come down here. But I'm just going to generally talk about a couple of things, and I'm going to start off just talking about the thing that I probably know best, which is the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts, which is the State Arts Council whose role it is to support the arts and artists throughout the state of Rhode Island. And I'm going to do this with an ulterior motive, because I have long felt that there is, although I copied and planned to bring a whole stack of stuff to pass out that included a fairly impressive list of grants that we have given in the Tiverton, Little Compton area over the past 10 to 15 years. It, of course, is sitting on my desk in my office, and I forgot to bring it. So I'll find some way to talk about some of the stuff that we have supported here in the past. But I don't think we're supporting enough of the kinds of wonderful things that either are happening or could be happening in this area. So while I'm talking about what the State Arts Council does, please, in the back of your mind, think about the kinds of things that you are doing or that you would like to be doing, and maybe we can have a conversation about how the State Arts Council, in cooperation with others, can help support those things happening with the financial resources that we have available to us. So, that said, State Arts Council. Most of you know us by the grants that we award. And that actually is a stack of grants on a table that Dan Kahn, who works in our education program, is going through. The good news in this picture is that starting October 1st, all of our applications are going to be online. So you can sit at your computer in your pajamas a week or so before the application deadline and type to your heart's content your grant application, not having to worry about printing out 9 copies of it and driving it up to Providence before the 4:30 deadline on October 1st and getting it into our hands, and us then sending to the people who review these things literally 2 large boxes of stuff for each person to review. It'll all be online, so paper will go the way of all flesh, and that's great for the environment and for other things. Let me just quickly give you a sense of the kinds of grants that we award. First, if you're an individual artist, and I imagine a number of you here are artists who are doing your own work, we have a number of different kinds of grants that we award. We have fellowship grants, which are my favorite kind of grant. Basically, it is a grant that says to the world, you do good work. We are proud to have you here working and living in the state of Rhode Island. Here is some money in acknowledgement of the work that you do as an individual artist, and you are not required to do anything in return for this money. You don't have to produce a picture, you don't have to put together a show, you don't have to put together a really interesting project. It is an acknowledgement of your work in one of 14 different arts disciplines, everything from painting and three-dimensional art and printing and printmaking and drawing and choreography and film and video, design, any one of those areas. We award a fellowship grant of $5,000 and a runner-up grant of $1,000, and we basically say, you do good work, thank you for living here, here's something that basically thanks you on behalf of the people of the state for what you contribute to our life. And no, you don't have to give us something in return. That's really unusual for a government to do. It's amazing that we use taxpayers' dollars to do that kind of thing. And it really acknowledges the kind of message that I normally don't get a chance to convey when I go across the street from my office to the General Assembly to beg for money. It says that Rhode Islanders are happy to have people who are living amongst us who contribute to the soul of our community. Most of what I do is convince members of the General Assembly that they need to support us because the arts are good for the economy of our state, or for the education of young people, or for the quality of life that we enjoy here in Rhode Island. But I rarely get to say, this money goes to make, to enrich the soul of the people who live in Rhode Island. And that's what the fellowship grants are all about. Feel free to raise your hand and ask questions as we go along. The other thing that individuals can take a benefit of, the same with organizations, are our project grants. And that's entirely different. Whereas a fellowship grant can be an acknowledgement of the work you do in the studio, a project grant is all about the work you do in the community. So it's all about putting together a community project, like Tiverton Four Corners putting together an exhibition of the work of area artists. That's all about contribution to the community. Or a program, a series of concerts by a local choral ensemble. Or an exhibition in local town hall. That's all about connection to community, making your work more accessible to people who might normally not have an opportunity to experience your work. Those project grants are awarded all over the state, and they're really what people think about when they think about arts activities happening in the state of Rhode Island. So it's everything from the work at Trinity Rep to the Newport Art Museum, to the Courthouse Center for the Arts. These are project grants that are focused on, here's what we'll do, here's how we'll do it, please give us money. And the money part of it is important because it is your money. People ask me, well, you're an agency, you've been around for over 40 years, who do you serve? Well, a lot of people, particularly those people in the arts community, think our role in life is to serve artists. And that is it to a certain degree. We give grants to artists, we provide technical support and assistance to artists, we give artists information about what sort of things are available that they can take advantage of. But really, the money that goes into supporting the stuff that we do comes from you. It's taxpayers' dollars. So about 60% of our budget comes from an appropriation from the General Assembly, which is, again, your money. And the remaining 40% comes to us from the National Endowment for the Arts, a federal arts agency, and that's your money as well. It goes to the federal government, and it comes from the federal government back here to the state of Rhode Island. So we got those grants going on as well. We also have a very active arts education program, and I'll talk a little bit about that because they've got their own slide. But for this area, the arts education program supports things like the Arts for All program in Little Compton at the Little Compton Village Community Improvement Society. There you go. So artists in residence in schools and in community centers, the kinds of things that school kids, both in the school and in the community, have an opportunity to experience the arts and get engaged in the arts at some level. So our arts education program is involved in that and a number of other things that I'll talk about when I get to the education slide. We also run a program for folk and traditional art forms. A lot of artists actually work within a culture, so that if you are a Yankee fiddler and you learned Yankee fiddling from your father or from your mother in the home, if you do Native American beadwork and you learn that within the Native American community, if you're a Hmong tapestry artist and you learn that within the culture, or any number of, and we, in this area, we stretch the boundaries of what the arts are. I mean, it's not painting and sculpture and music and theater. It can be blacksmithing. It can be boat building. It can be instrument making. These are things that are learned from father to son, from mother to daughter, and are in the modern culture in danger of, going the way of all flesh as these traditions die out. Well, we have a program at the Arts Council that's designed to help support those traditions by identifying master artists in a number of different art forms and finding talented apprentices to work with those master artists. And that's all done through our folk art program. Any questions about any of that so far? Anybody want to stand up and say, I absolutely think that's the worst thing you could possibly be doing? Okay, good. So we have a good audience. But this is our grant category, and we actually distribute about $1,500,000 in grant funds every year through that program. And it really reaches out, as you'll see, throughout the state. And here's some of the statistics. For those of you who can't read it from the back of the room, and this was one of the things that I actually printed out and is sitting on my desk waiting to bring down to Tiverton. We received last year 592 applications for support. We awarded 245 grants. So you see there's quite a process that goes on there. The number of young people who benefited from the projects that we did fund last year, because we ask all this sort of questions, 497,096 kids participated in programs that we supported throughout the state. That's everything from the kids who go to the community center in Little Compton, to the kids who go to the Project Discovery programs at Trinity Rep and the programs at PPAC and so on and so forth. That's a significant number of kids who are benefiting from these arts programs. And we're only scratching the surface. One of the things I hope we can talk about is how we can get more kids involved in the work that groups like the Sakonnet Arts Network and others are doing. Number of individuals benefiting from State Arts Council funded programs, 3,128,373. And the question I always get when I go to the General Assembly with that number is, but there's only 1 million people who live in the state of Rhode Island. Well, we get lots of visitors, first of all. And we can talk, and one of the things I hope we can talk about, particularly for this area of the state, is how tourism plays into the work that you do as you attract people to this part of the state and give them things to do while they are here. They're not just coming for the phenomenal beaches and the wonderful natural settings that you have. Your advantage here is to find ways to bring them in to experience the art that you have to offer as well. But there's that is tourism, That is people going to many different events. So, you, sir, could go to Trinity Rep, and then you go around the corner to PPAG for another performance, and then you go to a late night comedy program at improv comedy at Perishable Theater, and then you come down to this area and you go to a show at the Newport Art Museum. You are counted 4 or 5 times just for that. Well, as you well should be. So, and the number of artists participating in these programs, 11,026, according to the reports that we got back for last year. And the rest of this page, all the applications we received, we requested $4.5 million in requests, and we actually funded in state and federal dollars, I lied, $1.8 million, not $1.5 million last year. Actually, it's probably closer to $1.5 million this year because we went a little bit down. Here's the really interesting part from an economic impact perspective. Okay? So we funded these 245 projects. In order to do those projects, all of the organizations, all of the individuals spent, according to what they told us, $39.6 million. So we gave them $1.8 million. They spent $39.6 million, which means they raised 39 plus million, 38, 39, whatever they raised, millions of dollars in order to do these projects. That means that they raised $21 for every dollar that we awarded. You stop to think about all the arguments that take place in state government about cutting spending and reducing, the appropriations to this state agency and that state agency, and we're certainly going through that. How many state agencies can point to the fact that for every dollar they get, they raise $21 in return? That's a phenomenal return on investment. So there's another argument that you could be using locally when you're trying to raise money as well, that the arts are an investment and not an expense. For a local bank, certainly it's promotion, it's publicity, but it's also an investment in their community. A little bit more about what we do. Staff assistance. We are an agency that a former director of mine used to say, I only hire people who have made a curtain rise, which means that they have been involved in the arts in one way, shape, or form and know exactly what you are going through when you're working in the community. So we have people, and these people are Liz Keithline. There's actually a laser pointer. Yeah, there it is. You can't really see it. That's Liz Keithline, who runs our grants to organizations category. And that's Christina DiChiara, who runs our grants to individuals category. And they are a phone call or an email away to answer whatever questions, problems, or concerns you have about the work that you do. You're interested in finding ways to promote your activities better. These guys have the answers and the resources to help you with some of those issues. If you're an organization and need to figure out how to build your board of directors, we can work with you on that. If you have information that you want to circulate because you have an opportunity, you're able to commission a new work of art and you want the word to go out throughout the state, these people can help you with those kinds of things. The staff is there basically to respond to your needs because we are state bureaucrats, you are our bosses, you need to call us and tell us what you need, and our job as part of that state bureaucracy is, believe it or not, those of you who have dealt with the state before, we're really there to respond to what you need for us to do. So call, tell us what you need, and we'll find some way to help you if it's at all possible. Anyone want to relate any experiences with the staff, either positive or negative, that I can either cringe about or feel really good about?
Every time I've emailed Christina, she's responded back the same day with very helpful information.
There you go. How about that? Anyone else want to say something nice? Okay, great. Planning. What do I want to say about this? We've just been going through a monster planning process. It's been a year and a half in the works. We're about to circulate broadly the results of this planning process, which has literally involved thousands of people. And it boils down to 5, I love this. Any plan that you can put on a t-shirt is a great plan. Our plan basically has 5 major goals. Let me see if I can remember that because I haven't memorized them yet. The first one is lead. Okay. Lead, support, engage, learn, and grow. So the plan that we're about to set off on has lead being the first goal, which is our role in bringing groups like this together, in helping to advance the cause and the arguments for the arts, just like we're talking about now. You know, how do you convince the local community that the arts are worth supporting? We should be playing a leadership role in that, but sometimes leading involves convening, talking, discussion, bringing people together, and finding common ground. So lead is the first goal of ours. The second goal is support, and that not only means let's keep these grant programs going and keep on supporting artists and arts organizations in the state, but let's find creative ways, particularly during difficult economic times, to support artists and arts organizations. So we're currently looking at ways to simplify our grant-making activities. We're looking at ways to eliminate, for some, for example, schools, for example, have to match our grants dollar for dollar in order to receive a grant. So for every dollar we give you, you have to raise a dollar in the community. Schools are having a really hard time doing that. So we're thinking of eliminating that, at least during the short term. And we're thinking of cutting back on it for others. For individual artists, we've never asked for a matching dollar requirement because unless you go into a bank with a gun, you really can't raise money from a bank as an individual. But organizations we've always required matching dollar for every grant that we've given. And during these difficult economic times, we may be sort of rethinking that. We're also thinking about the role of smaller grants that help you for sudden opportunities or needs. For example, if you're an individual artist and are having a really hard time promoting your work, getting yourself on the internet, for example, so that you can sell your work more broadly, wouldn't a $500 grant that helps you get together with a web developer and find some way to get your work on the internet be of help? We don't really have a mechanism to do that, but we will by September or October of next year. If you want to travel to attend a conference or a workshop that would really help you in your work as an artist. Or if the Sakonnet Arts Network wanted to host a meeting of other similar organizations throughout the state and needed some financial help to make that happen. These kinds of small but significant grants are another way to support artists and arts organizations that are different than the $5,000 or $10,000 grants that we give to organizations that submit massive stacks of paper and go through an elaborate review process. So we're looking at innovative ways to support as part of this new plan. Engage. Did I get that right? Engage is all about how you connect your work to others and how those who have not had opportunities to appreciate the work that you do, how they can connect with you as well. So engage could be, how do you make your programs large type for people who are having problems with their eyesight? How do you make your facilities accessible to people with disabilities so that they can come in and participate in the work that you do? How do you develop pre-concert or post-concert discussions so that not only are you engaging in an artistic way, but you're also engaging intellectually with your audience? And how are you reaching out to communities that have traditionally not been able to participate in the arts because of their race or their economic situation or where they happen to live in the state, those kinds of things as well. Engage could be, I've been trying for the past couple of years to start a school bus grant program that provides opportunities for kids to take school buses to cultural events and activities, which seems to be the hardest money for schools to get and is keeping kids from really appreciating the arts in a really significant way. So that's a part of Engage as well. Learn is the kind of stuff that we've been doing in our education program. And I understand that the Sakonnet Arts Network has become involved in what we're calling our Community Toolkit program. Has anybody here been involved in that with Sherry Brown? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Remember any of the dates? I think it was in March, we did a small focus group to basically talk about how does information get shared around, specifically in Tiverton. How do we find out information? How do we know things are going on? If you have something new that's happening, how does it get out? Besides the Sakonnet Times, which is our local weekly newspaper. So we did that in March, and on June 4th, which is coming right up, we are having another convening at the Tiverton High School Library, and we are going to review the results of the report generated from everybody's opinions about that.
Great.
So that's our next.
And it's specifically about arts education. So it's really about how the kind of arts learning that is available in this community.
The toolkit part of it, it's called Community Toolkit. The toolkit part of it is that we are technical assistance and information specifically on marketing arts education within the community.
Great. Great. So, I mean, slide, I think it's the next one. Let me see. Nope, it's not. Well, we'll just go to it anyway. Okay, education. We've gone through an elaborate process of trying to get a sense of how kids learn about the arts. And we really have come to the conclusion that arts learning happens in both the home, the school, and the community, and that we can play a significant role in all three of those areas. We have developed, in partnership with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education and the State Office of Higher Education, something called the Rhode Island Arts Learning Network, which has a wonderful website, which is all about the fact that in order to graduate from a Rhode Island high school, you have to demonstrate proficiency in one or more art forms. How many of you knew that? All right, well, that's pretty good. In order to let me say that one more time. In order to graduate from a Rhode Island high school, you have to demonstrate proficiency in one or more art forms, as well as proficiency in math and science and unimportant stuff like that.
I'm sorry, is this state policy?
It is state policy. And the Arts Council's role was to work with arts educators throughout the state and determine what does proficiency in the arts mean, and what does it mean in the major art categories of the visual arts, music, dance, and theater. So there is on the Rhode Island Arts Learning Network website information on what proficiency means at all grade levels in each of those areas. And interestingly, samples of student work, both visual and video and the like, that address what proficiency means. Yes?
If I could just respond to that a little bit, I'm the instruction for the Tiverton School Department.
Cool.
And that requirement now is part of our diploma policy. It's been in place for 2 years now. Fortunately, we have a strong music and visual arts program, K-12. We did make a requirement that on top of that, students did have to take a half year of art at the high school level. And I know that's not enough, but it's a start anyway. And then since we only did visual arts and music, we also have multiple pathways for students to demonstrate proficiency in the arts. So we encourage students to bring their experiences in the arts outside of school into the school. We have a small drama club, and with the support of Sakonnet Arts Network, we've expanded that to better meet the arts proficiency standards. And in fact, most of the work that the Sakonnet Arts Network does in relationship to the schools, we require program proposals to show their alignment to the Arts Learning Network standards.
Great, perfect.
So we're moving in the right direction.
That's fabulous. There's lots of good stuff.
And because you're a curriculum director, you know about the GSEs and the BEPs. Well, the GSEs are the grade span expectations, and we've just been working with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education on developing grade span expectations in the arts, meaning that this is what you need to know at each grade level. And once that gets codified by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, schools are required to follow those grade span expectations. And there's been a lot of very strong support of those GSE developments at the Department of Education. And the Basic Education Plan, which is basically the state law for education, which says how much time and energy must be expended in each subject area. The arts are, and have been, basically since No Child Left Behind, a core subject in school, which means that they are on the same footing as math and science and social studies and English language arts, whatever. And so, you know, all the talk about, the first thing to go in the school budget is the arts. The whole reason for getting the arts embedded in the basic education plan for the state is to prevent that pretty much from happening. It will happen on the edges, but the arts will, we hope, knock for Micah, have a strong place in the schools by regulation as a part of this process. We've had some conversation with the incoming Commissioner of Education, and she's, we understand from our colleagues in the District of Columbia, very strongly in support of the arts. So we're happy there. Any questions about any of this art stuff? Because I think the education stuff in particular, the important thing to mention is that it's not just in the schools. It's in the community as well. And we have been involved in a program called Arts Passport at the Arts Council, which provides free tickets to students throughout the state to attend arts events and activities to use as part of demonstrating their proficiency in the arts. So a kid can go to a performance of at the GAM Theater in Pawtucket, or go to a show at the Newport Art Museum and write about that experience and demonstrate their proficiency in an art form cognitively by doing that. And that's incredibly important. And actually our education program director said, when I started to talk about this money for school buses to go to cultural events, she said, yeah, you do that in the middle schools and the elementary schools. Because our position in the Arts Passport program is if the kids can get to the mall, they can get to a cultural event. So that's some of what our education program is doing, in addition to which we're also providing grants to bring artists into the classrooms. And there's some wonderful programs that we have supported in that area as well. I missed one. Research and information. We have a great website. We have our own weblog, one of the first state arts councils, in fact, one of the first state agencies to have its own blog. Along the side of our website are links to different stories in the blog. We have links to, and I love this, we've got our own RSS feed, we've got a Twitter site, we've got a YouTube site, we've got a MySpace site, and we've got a Facebook site. And so we're out there with social networking in a big way, because these are communications tools that really connect us well to a wide variety of people. There's an amazing number of artists who are on Facebook and MySpace, and we should be communicating with them as well. Arts districts, we are actually in an arts district. There are 9 arts districts in the state of Rhode Island. Who here knows about arts districts? Okay, let me tell you this story here. There are arts districts, including Little Compton and Tiverton, where if you have a gallery and you sell one-of-a-kind original works of art you can sell that work exempt from state sales tax. So, and this is to encourage people to come to these 9 areas of the state. If you are an artist and live within one of these arts districts, and each area is defined differently, so you may actually live in Tiverton, but not live in the Tiverton Arts District. If you live and create work in an arts district in Rhode Island, not only is the work that you sell exempt from state sales tax, but the income that you receive from the sale of that work is exempt from state personal income tax. So, I'm a sculptor, I create this big sculptural thing, I sell this work to you, ma'am, a visiting arts patron from Brooklyn, and you give me $20,000 for the sculpture, which you're going to put in your study, and the $20,000 that I get is exempt from state personal income tax. And this is designed to encourage people to live in one of these arts districts. Now, each arts district is different. In Providence, it's 10 blocks downtown. This street to this street to this street to this street. Tiverton and Little Compton have a different sort of arrangement. They're set up by zoning classification. And usually, in most of these areas, the zoning classification is not the residential zoning classification. It is commercial business, waterfront business. I think there's a special zone for Tiverton. What? Village commercial. I love that. Village commercial. And if your house happens to be zoned village commercial, then you have the ability to take advantage of this. Chris?
At Tiverton Four Corners, it is true. Middle of the intersection. Period.
Okay. See, I didn't know that. But general business is probably that thing for...
Because Rossberry Wynn Potter School,
Yeah.
right opposite the restaurant.
Really?
They are not.
Well, we need to change that, don't we? Okay. That's a call to your local legislature. Anyway, arts districts are great. They were originally designed with this in mind. We have a really rundown area of our city or town. Let's establish that as an arts district. Let's get people to live there. Living was a really important part of this process. Let's get people to live there. When they live there, artists tend to go into an area that's really run down, and all of a sudden you've got sidewalk cafes and Parisian music playing and little convenience stores opening up and all sorts of things, and it changes the nature of the beast. That's what the arts districts were supposed to be. And I think in some communities they're still that way. But when Tiverton and Little Compton came into the picture, it was all about the galleries. It wasn't necessarily about the individual artists. But that can change as you talk to members of the General Assembly and get this legislation reviewed, revised.
Is there another area of Tiverton that's an arts district also, or just that one section?
I think there's a part in northern Tiverton.
Yeah, it's general commercial, which is all the way up Route 138.
There you go. General commercial, which is all the way up Route 130.
It's up to the state line.
Yeah, okay. So it's all about zoning. So go to your local zoning board and they'll tell you what's in the arts district and what isn't. But it's a great way to promote and bring people to your area, particularly if you've got a gallery space that you want people to come into. And what is a gallery space? Anything that the Arts Council decides is a gallery space. And I say that without, basically, it's not the ABC gallery. It can be an artist studio. And there are many artist studios throughout the state that we have designated as galleries if artists are selling work out of it. And we've done that deliberately because we really wanted a great mix of different kinds of things involved in this program. And since there's a terrific open studio program down in this part of the state, I think there are real opportunities to get a lot of these artist studios designated as gallery spaces just for that reason. And
How do you go about doing that?
basically you submit a form to the tax office. They send me a copy and I say, yes, it's an artist, it's a gallery.
Would that be similar to what's called spot zoning, just a specific building?
No, it all depends what the zoning is. If the zoning is, commercial, then you're set. If the zoning is residential, then according to the law, you can't qualify for the arts district legislation.
Begs the question, how much movement can you do to change Timmerman's thinking about it?
That's between you and the town administrator. But arts districts are great. We have a site on our website that describes it. Public art. I love public art. It's the most time-consuming, frustrating, controversial, and rewarding thing we do. It's great because it is really for the public. And put simply, the State Arts Council administers, gosh, time is flying. Okay, I'm going to have to make this quick. The State Arts Council administers a 1% for the arts program, which basically says every state building that goes up, 1% of the construction cost goes toward the acquisition of works of art. The acquisitions of works of art can be somewhat controversial if we, in fact, broaden the notion that the people of Rhode Island deserve the best work from wherever it is. So we've got neon on the side of the parking garage at the Rhode Island Convention Center, neon as you enter in, wonderful murals and paintings by artists. But you also have, at the Community College of Rhode Island, you've got a large hanging piece that resembles a sailing ship from long ago. It's a really cool piece. At the Kent County Courthouse, you've got a glass installation by Jamestown artist Paul Hausberg. You also have a sound installation by internationally renowned sound artist Bill Fontana, which is a series of bird and nature noises as you're walking into the courthouse. And people freak over the notion that that is public art. But if you go, and it is absolutely enchanting. You get surprised, and art's role is not just to enchant, but also to surprise and make you think. This piece is going to be an urban park in front of the Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence by Mick Young Kim, who's the head of the landscape architecture program at the Rhode Island School of Design. And not only do you have plantings in this area in a place that is now just concrete, but you've got this area where people can congregate. There's an area for performances. And this sculptural piece is actually a series of LED lights that will change as the day goes on. So it will mimic the way the light changes from morning to night. It's really, and it's the kind of light that will last for like 50 years. So it's a really cool piece, and that will go in the spring of next year.
Excuse me.
Yes?
What material, what is it made of?
Oh, it's made of a sort of corrugated metal kind of thing, but it's designed in such a way that you don't kill yourself if you fall on it. And I didn't bring all the details on that, but it's a metallic sculpture. It's also designed so that you can't run a skateboard over it. Public art, I mean, I've got a couple things of public art here. That's Mika Seeger, who's working with us, and stained glass artist Peter Geiser on a work for the Rhode Island Training School. That's Jamestown artist Peter Diepenbrock, who is posing by the frame of a work that he's creating and will be installing in August at the University of Rhode Island in front of Lippett Hall. That will look like that. It's huge, and it's going to look really great against the old granite of a historic building. And then there's the Rhode Island Film and TV office. That's Richard Gere, who filmed a movie in Bristol and in Woonsocket that will be coming out this summer called Hachiko. And nobody's supposed to know that I've actually seen an advance copy of it, and it made me cry. It's a great picture. You'll love it. But some other stuff that we've done. The film office is part of the Arts Council. 27 Dresses, Dan in Real Life. That's the guy from The Sopranos who did a pilot in Rhode Island. And that's the director of the film office with all the dogs that appeared in the Underdog movie. So just thought you want to know that there's from our mailing list. That's where all the artists and arts organizations in Rhode Island are as of maybe a couple of years ago. So there's a lot of them. They seem to sort of follow 95, but there's a lot in this part of the state too. If you look at Tiverton and Little Compton area, there are not as many dots as you know are out there. I mean, there are a lot of artists in this area, and I think we're only scratching the surface. And I think the big challenge for us and for you in the next couple of years is helping to get out into the community and identifying who those artists are, the kind of work they're doing, and how we can bring them into the discussion. So I'm particularly excited about groups like the Sakonnet Arts Network that can help us with that kind of an activity. This is just a couple things because I brought a whole long list of like $90,000 worth of projects we supported in this area in the past 10 years. This is a thing that actually Mika Seeger did. The artist will complete phase 3, the installation phase of the ceramic mural over and underground. This was at the Picasso School in Tiverton. Sculpture made by 24 third and fourth graders. Did I say Picasso right? Yes. Okay, great. Yes. And Mika Seeger is the mural's artistic and technical director. These kinds of projects are great. An artist goes into the school, works with the kids, creates a work of art that then becomes part of the school culture. And you know, you really can't buy stuff like that. It is
Absolutely beautiful. We'll be having a community open house coming up soon. We don't have a date yet, but I hope people will come and see it. It's gorgeous.
It's been installed?
Yes, it's installed, it's up, it's beautifully with the design of the building and the color scheme, it's just gorgeous.
Yeah, I love projects like this. We did a project a couple of years ago with the Department of Environmental Management. They got a grant from the Environmental Protection Agency to educate about water quality and watershed issues. And the Department of Environmental Management didn't really know how to do that. So one of our staff persons played on a volleyball team with one of the Department of Environmental Management staff persons, and they started talking about this, and we started a project that put artists in residence in schools to do projects on water quality issues. So they would get out into, you know, local ponds and that sort of thing, create little sculptural gardens around the school that included water education stuff. I mean, these are great projects. The Little Compton VIS, Village Improvement Society. Okay, request support from RISCA to continue the tradition performing arts presentations at the Little Compton Community Center Theater. Highly popular Arts for All performances take place in October and April. And, you know, and we've been funding this for quite a period of time. Is culture important? Here's where we get into, in the last minute and a half, the topic of today's discussion, which was the economic impact of the arts in this area. Is culture important to Rhode Island? Let us count the ways. This is part of Culture Count, which is a database that you can access online through the New England Foundation for the Arts. 1,750 organizations in Rhode Island, cultural organizations. $930,000 in public support to benefit them. Dollars paid to cultural nonprofit employees in Rhode Island each year. $356 million in salaries or fees paid to Rhode Islanders through cultural organizations. Now, normally I would completely disbelieve that figure, as well as the figure next to it. But these figures are all gathered from submissions to the Internal Revenue Service and the Department of Labor and the Department of Commerce that are gathered by the New England Foundation for the Arts and others. So I feel fairly comfortable if you're telling the federal government something, it's probably a believable figure. So, but that's huge. $356 million paid to people who are working on cultural projects in the state of Rhode Island each year. $750 million added to the Rhode Island economy by cultural nonprofit organizations each year. That's a huge economic impact. $750 million. Arts in the Tiverton area. You can also plug the word Tiverton into this database and get all sorts of interesting stuff, including your population of 15,260 people. Total cultural nonprofits, there are 8 organizations listed, 11 cultural businesses. Here's where it gets to be a little bit weird. It says you have 3 libraries, but when you click on the library thing, it's all the same library. It's the Essex. There's 2? Okay, then there's 2. 2 historical organizations, 3 libraries, 1 multidisciplinary organization, which is the Tiverton Four Corners thing, 1 museum, and 1 performing arts group. And this is sort of the list that they have in there. Now, some of these I know are out of business, okay? Bulgar Marsh, Clay, and Sandy Woods Farm, I know that's DJ Papa John Moitza, Donovan Gallery, Essex Public Library, that's the same thing, right? Okay. Friends of Tiverton Libraries Incorporated, Greater Tiverton Community Chorus. Is that in existence? Yes. Cool. Okay, I'm a chorus person. That's my degrees in music education, voice. Lebre family, Mill Pond Gallery, National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution. Okay. The Onus Gallery. Okay. Greater Tiverton, the Mill Pond Gallery, National, we already did that. Old Colony and Newport Scenic Railroad. Okay. Sakonnet Artist Cooperative Gallery, is that still around? Yeah, oh darn, that was a nice place. Sea Dance, Tempo, Thistle Gallery, Tiverton Four Corners Center for Arts and Education, Tiverton Historical Society, and the Virginia Ledge Gallery, which is gone. Okay, so these are the organizations that they list when they come up with some figures. But what's really interesting in this is how you can calculate the economic impact using this database. And you can all do this. You can make up your own imaginary arts organization and see what effect it has in the area. But unfortunately, it has to be in Massachusetts because Massachusetts is the only one that put the money up to pay for this to happen. Okay, we were cheap about it, but it was really expensive. So I decided to go through a little exercise that will only literally take me 5 minutes. Okay, all cultural organizations in the area, I said Westport. And this includes Onstage Academy of Performing Arts, Westport Fair, Westport Free Library, Westport Harvest Festival, Westport Historical Society, and Westport Music Boosters Association. According to all their submissions to the federal government, that spending for last year was $383,366. If you put in all the indirect spending that's associated with that, for example, when I spend $100 to put together a presentation as an arts organization, I go to a local lumber store and I buy some lumber and use it to make sets. The lumber store has an economic impact associated with it as well. This is all high-level economics, but they're basically saying that that direct spending of $383,000 translates into $590,000 in economic impact in the community. Employment, 16.42 people. I don't know what a 42 people is. But a total of local employment, the guy who works at the lumber store, for example, is 19.96 people. Again, higher economics. And my personal favorite, impact on property values. Because if an arts organization establishes itself in your community, chances are your property values will go up. And they calculate it as being about 4% bump in your property values from the Westport cultural events and activities that happen in that community. So what happens if we create our own Westport Opera Company and we say it has a budget of $500,000? Well, they say that that one organization has a total impact in the local economy of $824,000. So not only is the organization responsible for $500,000 in spending in that community, but it also generates some additional money as well. It results in 44 people, which is not too bad. and it has a 5% bump in your property values, which is a great way of going to your local town council and saying, look, if you help us keep the arts alive in this community, not only is it great for our economy, but it's great for our property values as well. And you know, I bet that's the last slide. Again, stream of consciousness, it's not pretty, but sometimes it gets some good information out there. And I'm happy to answer whatever questions you might have, which you should have been asking as I was going through the presentation in the first place. So, yes?
I would just be curious, what's your best advice for the Sakonnet Arts Network?
As far as getting local resources?
For it to grow and be successful, especially one of the problems is not having one location.
Sure.
In a building.
Yeah, I mean, facilities are always a challenge. There are facilities that you may be able to call your home. I had a conversation 4 or 5 or 6 years ago with the town administrator in Tiverton about, didn't they put together a new space in town hall that is suitable for displaying work? And saying, you know, you really need to get a local group to sort of take this over and make it your own. And you know, if you're associated with a space and people want to show their work, that's a good way to get them involved. So you need to know who's out there. You need to provide programs like this and programs where people are learning how to, you know, do the kind of stuff they want to learn how to do, and therefore get invested in being a part of the organization. So I think you're on a good path at the moment. And as you get more people engaged and involved, then you have opportunities to get, you know, their spouses who work at such and such to invest some money in support of those programs. And then you create, in effect, a legacy. So every year, if the local Stop and Shop or the local bank or the paint store or whatever is contributing some money to the support of the program, and you're giving them great exposure, then they're going to continue to support you as well. It's sort of like an evolutionary process. And so it starts with doing good programs, which you are. It then reaching out and finding people who are in the arts but not necessarily connected with what you're doing. Finding resources like the State Arts Council, which are willing to support some programs so that you can do some splashy things every now and then. And you know, then it gets to the point where Eric over in Portsmouth can tell you, you find a space that is your own and you build it up from there. I mean, do you want to say anything about that?
Well, sure. Portsmouth Arts Guild, and we made a partnership with a church over there, St. Paul's Episcopal Church. We transformed their parish house into a gallery. We put some money into it, they put some money into it. We have a terrific deal with them. I mean, we're facing some concerns now because it was good for them and it was good for us. It was good for them because they had lost a lot of their congregation when the Episcopal gay bishop thing broke in New Hampshire, and half their congregation left. So we were able to provide some income from them, and they were able to provide us with space. And it's worked very well as an interim space. It's not long-term because we're under the threat of having that church merged with another Episcopal church. And so we're now beginning to look for alternative space. But we've been there 2.5 years. It's a terrific gallery. We have classes there, and we looked for a long time, rental properties and so on, and this was just a good interim solution for us. And that kind of thing, I think, it may be possible here, I don't know.
But it's pretty much that kind of evolutionary process.
Yeah.
You start new programs, you reach out into the community, find people to connect up,
Right.
you connect to the resources that they may have connections to.
Yeah, well, it's made a huge difference. I mean, for years, the Portsmouth Arts Guild is 7 years old, and for the first 4 years, we had exhibitions all over the place. Town Hall, Portsmouth Abbey, the town library, wherever we could get a space, but the problem was you could only have an exhibition for like 4 days, and then you had to get out. And it was a hell of a lot of work for a 4-day exhibition, and having this deal with St. Paul's Church turned us into not only being able to do month-long exhibition, it's changed the nature of our organization and turned us into a business.
Right.
Where we have, bills to pay and responsibilities and so on.
We put $500 to the Connect Island Art Association, which is the Jamestown group, to buy the equipment to take the town council chamber in town hall and put, the kind of equipment that people can then hang paintings. And it's changed the organization in the sense that they now have a space that they are associated with. But and the space is important. I used to manage an orchestra that performed in a different place every time, and it's really difficult to build an audience under those circumstances. But it can be done. But if you find someone that's willing to have a relationship like that with you, one that is mutually beneficial, then I think you've got some good thing to build upon. You had a question back there.
It wasn't a question, it was a response
Oh, respond away.
to the town hall, that it has been being used now for several years. The Tiverton Arts Council uses it as a gallery. And the show that's up right now that opens on Sunday are the seniors from the high school, Tiverton High School. And it's a beautiful show of seniors' work. And
Great.
it'll be up for a month.
Yeah, and those kinds of collaborations. Small community, and to think that you might have 4 or 5 different arts organizations where there could be one group working together is another thing to sort of keep in mind. Yeah.
I think it's kind of interesting that you have put together numbers that exemplify what the arts have contributed to various aspects of, I'll say it this way, Rhode Island life and sort of Tiverton little continent. But one thing, and you touched upon this with regard to Westport, one of the things that arts do for communities such as Tiverton is enhance the quality of life. Absolutely. So that, for example, this Pocasset School art becomes an item of interest. Mm-hmm. As a person coming in to develop, to open a business, or looking for a place to open a business, or a business opportunity, or to even live here and to raise a family, having access to the arts or having the atmosphere created by the arts is a real enhancement. Absolutely. And one of the issues that we've had through the years, or recent years, in my experience at least, is that our zoning, and this was touched upon earlier, has been designed around what you can't do. And this is changing. And there's a proposal being developed right now by the town planner and the planning board, and it's going through various aspects of approval and acceptance and permutation, as the case may be, that enables form design, which is essentially saying to this party you should wear a black tie. If you're going to be in this area, you wear your format should be like this. Okay. But if you're in this area and your landscape is such, you build and design according to the environment that the structure or the complex is going to be. Oh, yeah. Now, this is at a beginning stage, and it's something that's rather, I think, revolutionary for this area. And whenever I hear a comment relative to what we can't do, it bothers me because I think we should all have the attitude that, by the way, I'm with the Economic Development Commission. We should have the attitude that it can be done. It's not a question of you can't do it, it's a question of how do you do it?
Absolutely.
How do you make it happen?
You know,
And we need to grow, and we're going to change. You can't stop changing. The question is, if you want to change in a positive way, you have to act on that.
well, there's so much. I haven't talked about economic development and the like. We touched a little bit on tourism and how important the arts are in attracting people to an area. I mean, but if you stop and think that people can live anywhere now, the kinds of the kind of knowledge economy that we're promoting in Rhode Island and elsewhere around the country is such that people can pick up and live anywhere. And it is the kinds of things that attract people to a place. I mean, the beautiful vista outside the window here is one attractant, but there are other things as well. And the arts and culture have been a significant part of that business development model in other states and in other places. I used to tell the story about the Corning Glass Company in Corning, New York, near Elmira, had to provide a corporate jet to its executives and their spouses to take them into New York City because there was nothing cultural to do in Corning, New York. And I like to think that there are ways to promote different areas of our state as places where people can live because of the cultural amenities that they have available to them. And I think I haven't been down here in a while to talk to the economic development people, but the presence of an arts district in this area can be what I consider a significant economic tool to help bring new business to this area. And I'd love to sit down and talk to you about that and your colleagues as well.
Well, you're preaching to the choir. Really.
I often do that.
You know, we forget because we live. But there's no other asset, beauty asset, in the state of Rhode Island that's better than this area right here. And this strip of land from Massachusetts to Little Compton is second to none. And the question is, how do you make it so that it's revealed as what's here?
Well, and I'm happy to come down in other settings. Way over our time, but I appreciate your patience. I have my card, and anyone is welcome to join us either electronically on the web or, yes?
One question, you said that we should all have signed up to your website so that we're on your mailing list?
Yes, you should be on my mailing list. Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. So, anything else before we call it quits? Thank you all very much.